Well, what can I say? I am very lucky. I get to travel all over the world seeing incredible natural spectacles and, of course, filming amazing animals. Some of them are very popular animals, the A-list celebrities, if you like, lions, sharks, polar bears, things like that. But what really excites me is filming the less popular animals, some even unpopular. The rattlesnake. These are amazing animals. Rattlesnakes are the most highly evolved snakes on our planet. When they hunt, they ambush their prey. They sit in wait, very still, sometimes for many hours. When their prey comes past, possibly a small mouse, they hit it, they inject a venom into it using fangs that unfold from the roof of their mouths. And that venom then immobilizes the prey, which they then swallow whole. It's an amazing behavior. It's quite a shocking behavior, particularly if you're the mouse, it has to be said. It was something that had never been filmed in the wild until 2006. In 2006, I work at the BBC Natural History Unit, and the BBC, there's an expectation that you will film things that have never been filmed before, sometimes new to science. And I was very lucky to work on a series called Life in Cold Blood, presented by Sir David Attenborough. And it was a 6-part series covering all the major reptile and amphibian groups, so crocodiles, tortoises and turtles, frogs, salamanders, newts, lizards, and of course, snakes. I was given a choice of which film to make, and I chose the snakes film, partly because I love snakes, which I accept makes me somewhat unusual, but also because I knew it would be the biggest challenge. Now, when you're making a film on snakes, obviously we needed to examine all the life problems snakes have to face, and that includes feeding, of course, but there are no vegetarian snakes. You don't see snakes grazing in fields or picking berries off bushes. They're all predators. Okay, so we were definitely going to have to film them hunting at some point. So what kind of challenge was this? Well, the first thing I did was gather all the footage I can that had ever been filmed on snakes. And I discovered there had never been a film of a viper, rattlesnakes are vipers, hunting for real. So why is that? Well, the first problem is snakes, like all reptiles, are exothermic, cold-blooded, okay? So they control their own temperature by using the temperature of their surroundings. So they don't need to eat like we do. They don't need to eat as much. So a rattlesnake might only feed, say, 12 times a year, okay? So that's a problem. Okay, the second problem is they mostly feed at night because that's the peak activity period of the creatures they're hunting. Now, when they do feed, they do it in areas where the mammals go. And the rattlesnakes are very clever. You see that snake has his forked tongue out. The forked tongue is used to pick up scent particles. And the scent particles tell the rattlesnake where the mammals are going. But we can't see those pathways. The snake can, and that's where he or she will set their ambush. Another problem. When snakes do this, they give very little warning. I'll show you an example of what I mean. Here's 2 snakes. Snakes are quite difficult to read. When you film mammals, when you film birds, you may have an idea of what they're about to do. But with snakes, very little idea. The one on the right, he might be well-fed, fat, happy. The one on the left, eager to feed. Happy snake, sad snake, who knows? You get the idea. And finally, when they do strike, they do it in 1/10 of a second. So I'd undertaken something that had never been filmed before, something that happens probably in the middle of the night, in an area I can't predict where it's going to happen. It's happening 12 times a year, and I'll get no warning. This was a challenge. At this point, I thought I should probably be making a film on fluffy meerkats or something similar. At least people like watching them doing absolutely nothing, which was probably what we were going to film. But science came to the rescue. I researched and I found a guy called Harry Green. Harry Green's the preeminent scientist expert on pit vipers. And Harry had been using radio telemetry. And him and his PhD student, Rulon Clark, in the US, were tagging snakes. So you could follow individual snakes. They had the data. They knew where the snakes were all the time. This is a key point. And they knew how much they were feeding. So we had a chance, at least. Our next problem was safety. Snakes famously bite people, rattlesnakes famously bite people, right? So I asked Harry on the phone, I said, how serious a danger is this? And he said, well, you know, you're probably too old to get bitten by a snake. I thought that's a strange thing to say. And he said, well, yeah, because the data shows that rattlesnakes, 70% of rattlesnakes bite men between the age of 18 and 25, and they're usually drunk. So this is your classic prey, your target for a rattlesnake, and fortunately I don't look like that. Well, not yet, anyway. So we were safe. So I assembled a team, and we got together and we built a camera. We basically raided electronic shops. This is back in 2006, remember. So there was no camera that did what we wanted to do. We raided the electronic shops. We got infrared cameras, batteries, the sensors that you see on the corner of an office to sense for burglars. So our hope was that it would pick up the warm blood of the snake's natural prey. And we traveled to the US. And this is when I met Hank. There's a picture of Hank. Can you all see him? Of course you can't. He's a male timber rattlesnake. They have incredible natural camouflage to hide them from their prey, to hide them from predators, of course, and they're particularly effective to hide them from BBC film crews. That's where he is. He's called Hank. There he is in all his glory. He's named, all the snakes in the reserve were named after country and western singers. So there was a Dolly Parton and Hank Williams. Hank Williams. So he became our star. So now our challenge started for real. We followed Hank for 3 weeks. And when you're filming animals, you need to think like a snake. You know, you need to think like the animal. And I like to think we got under the skin of his personality. We learned a lot about him. One of the most interesting things I learned about him was that despite the fact I spent 3 weeks a meter away from him, he never once rattled his tail at me. He never threatened me. And after a couple of weeks, we returned and we checked our camera trap. And there, it had been set off, and we had the first ever recorded hunt by a rattlesnake, which I'll show you in a second. A couple of points. Up to that point, the hunt itself, I would say there wasn't a lot of luck involved. You know, we played the odds. We had some luck a little bit, but what was lucky is Hank struck the mouse. He jumped out of view, and then Hank went and got it and brought it back in front of the camera and turned it sideways on. You'll see the clip here with our presenter, David Attenborough. He wasn't there when we filmed it. He arrived a few days later. He had no idea what we were filming, so his reaction is genuine.
He's worked out that that is the path along which the mice run. And he's getting himself properly adjusted so he can strike when he next gets a chance. Now once again, waiting. That's what the snakes are so good at. Oh my goodness. That's a dead mouse, all right.
Slow down that shot, and you can see that the snake stabs the mouse just once. After 3 convulsive kicks, the mouse is dead. The snake is moving again.
He's going back now. to look for the one that he knows is dead back there. Where is it? Ah, now it looks as though he's really got it. That's his dinner. And that can last him for 3 weeks, 4 weeks if necessary.
It's like he knew that the camera was there. We're very lucky. Now, I'm going to show you another favourite clip of mine now, from a completely different project. I made a series called Great Barrier Reef. When I was offered this series, I was told I could go and live on the Great Barrier Reef with my family. And I had this image in my head of lying around on beaches, zipping around in beautiful boats, having the odd dive perhaps through flickering shoals of colourful fish. The truth was far from that. The reality was that we had the worst weather ever recorded in Queensland. We had the biggest Category 5 cyclone that had ever come ashore in that part of Australia. It threatened to destroy our production completely. Our boats broke. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Animals didn't turn up. The weather was awful, and the boats broke again. I could show you lots of clips from that series, and they're all beautiful, and they're testament to the amazing people that pulled together to make that series possible, all of whom love the underwater world. Now, of course, a lot of that series is beautiful shoals, traditional wildlife photography. I'm going to show you something, my favorite clip, which is not beautiful in the traditional sense of the word. And I'm going to show it without sound, so I'm going to talk you through it. This creature is the pearlfish. The pearlfish, he's a quite pathetic-looking character. He's about the size of a pencil. You can see he's quite a weak swimmer. He does not want to be out in the open water like this. Any fish that's going to come along will eat him. So he's looking for somewhere to hide. Where could he hide? Off he is, searching. This is a sea cucumber. The biologists here might know this animal. It's like an underwater hoover, vacuum cleaner. Sand goes in one end, they extract the nutrients, and the sand comes out the other end. So there he is, looking for somewhere to hide. That's the mouth of the sea cucumber. He's not interested in the mouth, though. You might be getting an idea of what's about to happen here. There's a few people in the front row crossing their legs. He uses his sense of smell to find the right part of the sea cucumber. And that is a sea cucumber's bottom. The inevitable happens. I'll leave you to add your own sound effect in your head there. Pick anything you think appropriate. Actually, it's a very safe place to hide. Sea cucumbers are toxic to most creatures, so he couldn't be safer in there. And the bad news for the sea cucumber is that plenty of pearlfish can share the same home. So yeah, here we have a second pearlfish. You can see the first one poking his head out. I must tell you, when we decided to film this sequence, my researcher had been going on at me for ages to film this sequence. And I kept saying, no. It's a brown fish, and it doesn't live in the most beautiful part of the reef. And, and it's a bit disgusting. But this, of course, was before social media really took off. And she persuaded me, and we filmed it. And we had all these amazing shots of sharks and whales and things like that, manta rays. But when the series went out, you can imagine what the most popular sequence was. So look, thank you for letting me share those with you. There are many millions of creatures on our planet, and most of them have yet to be filmed. And some of them do some really, really amazing things. So there's still many challenges out there awaiting. So thank you very much.